Hello, it's Josh here. Hopefully you can hear me and see me in the bottom right hand corner momentarily. I thought I'd say hello before I get rid of my face and open up the full screen. I'm in the excellent GG's Gold, and in this video I am going to endeavour to whiz through the Kempton card on Saturday, which doesn't look like being rained off. It's obviously an all-weather meeting, standard to slow. The idea of this video is simply to kind of whiz through and highlight a few starting points. Some stats of interest, mainly trainer related, trainer jockey combos, some other little bits and pieces, the odd bit of pace analysis as well. All with the idea of using as a kind of weigh in and a starting point before you can, if you so please, take a deeper dive into the race and the horses involved. Hopefully I say something useful both potentially for this card, but certainly for the flat season moving forward and in the next couple of weeks when it comes to kind of informed trainers, and I might hopefully say something that's useful more generally. Having a kind of starting point is can be a useful way to your punting and a way in. There's obviously a hell of a lot of racing that all can be a bit kind of overwhelming at times. Your way in may well be specialising in a certain race type. Of course, you might follow a certain group of trainers, for example, or focus on certain stats, trainer jockey combos, handicap debutants, you name it. I'll touch on a few of those. And trainers in form might be another one. You might also focus on front runners or prominent racers, which is another useful starting point and way into focus, and that's no bad approach either, trying to find lone front runners or horses who will be up there and in the right position to pounce. So yeah, with that said, I will crack on. Do watch with a notepad if you so please, and yeah, hopefully I might say something interesting. It is a whiz through. It's very kind of top level, and yeah, there's no kind of form or profile analysis of any particular horse, but I might say something which gives you a steer, as I said, so you can take a deeper dive yourself if you wish. Right, let me get rid of my face so hopefully you can see the full screen and this card. Like I said, I'm in GG's Gold, which I use frequently and daily. Lots of things at the touch of a button. Let's just whiz through it in race card order. Race one is a novice stakes, not my particular kind of race, a race packed full of unexposed horses, of course. There's these little report angles within GG's, which you can set different settings yourself and they'll flag different things. But let me start with Star Pupil, who might well be a Star Pupil here today. But it's worth highlighting the form of Richard Hughes, who started the kind of turf season, or seems to have had his horses ready. Obviously, plenty of all-weather winners in this little batch, but 8 from 19, 11 places in the last 14 days. Impact value is ridiculous. Actual versus expected, they're performing way above market expectations. So clearly a team in rude health. The market eventually at some point can cotton on to hot trainers. But yeah, using Richard Hughes as a focus point or a starting point, possibly for this card and certainly in the next couple of weeks, maybe no bad thing, because they are flying and the number of places as well is pretty decent. He does well at Kempton, as you can see there, 15 from 52, 23 places, plus 72. To £1 level stakes. So if you like your weather punting, if you like your punting at Kempton, he is certainly a trainer to watch here. It looks like it's a place he targets. Now, we are in a novice stakes. There's plenty of horses that have, all of these have raced once. So looking at trainers who do well with horses making their second career start is never a bad thing, and Richard Hughes is pretty good at that. 18 from 70, 33 places, 25%. So this is, I suppose, an example of kind of starting points in the way and a kind of stats foundation, trainer form. This particular trainer does well with horses taking a second start. There's obviously lots of guesswork over whether or not he's ready and if he takes a step forward. George Rook as a jockey wouldn't necessarily be one of his go-tos. So, you know, there's starting points and ways in terms of positives and negatives. 4 from 73, 17 places. The market may well guide on him. What else do I want to highlight? Jack Shannon, again, he does okay with horses second start, and that's something to maybe note more generally, especially if you like playing in maiden races and novice stakes races. 5 from 27, 10 places, decent profit there, and yeah, solid enough. Hugo Palmer horse here is interesting, and interesting because Oisin Murphy has been booked. And I say that because I clicked that little report angle thing there, and you can see the trainer jockey in the last year, 11 from 40, 19 places, 27% plus 12. Hugo Palmer, Oisin Murphy, a trainer jockey combo, if you like that kind of thing, to note and track for the season ahead and moving forward. Hugo obviously likes using Oisin when he can, and Oisin will be chasing the jockey's title and trying to get into battle with Will Buick again. And obviously he's going to be he'll be wanting to be put on, working with his agent, as many horses that have good chances as possible. So yeah, always interesting, those little angles like that. Oisin rides this place pretty well generally. Hugo Palmer's are going along okay. He's had recent winners. Not flying as such, but solid enough second start stats there. So you've got hot form as well. That's another way in, or to give substance and context to a race, whether in this type or in handicaps in particular, but there's only one horse that's ran out of this so far that was in front of the Palmer horse on debut, and he was a Richard Hughes horse under George Rook, so maybe ignore my negative trainer jockey comments from a second ago, but he won and bolted up on his second start, so there's starting to be some substance there, although sorry, I should say that the winner got beaten in Class 5, but anyway, that's another example of things that you can click on and look through if you so wish. Let me get back to this Kempton race. What else? Are there any other stats here to highlight? I'll be quicker on some of these other races. There's quite a few ways in and things that you can note down. Eve Johnson Horn is flying 4 from 10, 7 places in the last 30 days. Trainer jockey in the last 14 days. Eve Johnson Horn, Charles Bishop, who's obviously a stable jockey, 4 from 6, 5 places. So they're flying along as well. So that's definitely a yard to keep an eye on. Yeah, just absolutely flying. 81% of rivals beaten. So, most of them are finishing nearer the front of their races than nearer the back, which is always a good positive. And with percentage of rivals beaten figure, it can be useful to compare that the last 14 to 30 days with their year average. So that's 3, 6, 5 days. So if they're performing above that, and sometimes when you look at trainer form, they might not be banging in the winners, but they've had a load of places, and that may suggest that the yard is about to hit some form, and they've just been unlucky, and they may be about to have some winners, and so on. This one, my aim isn't to dive into the horses too deeply because I haven't done so. This one's raced 4 times already, obviously needs to set 4, but is race fit, so it'll be interesting. Obviously, loads of these may have wintered really well. The markets can certainly be a guide at times in races like this, but not always. What do I want to say? The Charlie Fellows, Kieran Schumacher's riding well. He's an example of what I was just saying. So he's had 10 runners in the last 30 days, 5 of them have placed. He's had 6 in the last 14, 4 have placed. 67% of rivals beaten versus a year average of 54. More are running well nearer the front. Is he just getting a bit unlucky? Is he bumping into a few? But it would suggest he's got the yard fairly, or plenty of the string fairly forward, and they're obviously in rude health. So Charlie Fellows might be one of those trainers who could be about to take off in the next 2 or 3 weeks and bang in some winners. That's worth noting down. We shall see if he does, but that could be a useful way in. So that's that race. Hopefully, I've said something there, and you can dive into some of those horses and have a look and see if you like them. 2:05. I'm 9 minutes. I'm not going to be 9 minutes on every race. What do I want to say about this? This is a filly listed race. Trainer jockey 14 days. Simon and Ed Crisford. They've had a couple of winners in the last 2 weeks. Are they about to hit top gear? They do okay. I mean, plenty of theirs are well back. £1 on all of theirs would have lost you 92 quid over the last year. So you do need to be picky. The market doesn't seem to take many chances. Is there anything else I want to say on that particular front? On the stats front, no, I don't think so, other than the fact the yard look like they're about to burst into form. Joseph O'Brien's are doing okay. He's sent 8 over to Kempton, 3 of 1. That will include jumps as well, I think. Gemma Tutti, a yard to watch. I don't know if this horse, this rated 84 and stepping up from handicap into a listed, which is a bold move. But yeah, Gemma Tutley worth noting. She's obviously had a great start to the season. She did pretty well at the Lincoln meeting, at Donny. In the last 14 days, 2 from 7. The last 30 days, 4 from 14, 7 places. They're going along pretty well. And it's worth noting she gets them to hold their form. Whether or not she's got a load of well-handicapped horses at the moment, but that's pretty decent. 10 from 37, 17 places with last time out winners. Which isn't necessarily a bad way in. You can watch the videos, watch the replays of those wins, see if you think they're well handicapped, see if you think they won with a load in hand or they won despite maybe some things going wrong and so on. Roger Varian makes an appearance. James Doyle is no longer Godolphin number 2, I believe. Stand to be corrected, but I think he's gone freelance. He'll probably ride plenty for Godolphin as well, of course, but I think he's just kind of loosened the shackles a bit, and he's going to be riding plenty for Roger Varian. I'm not sure if he's officially been made stable jockey. I'd need to check that up. I don't think so necessarily, but Roger started to use him plenty. James is riding really well, 4 from 14, 7 places, 66% of rivals beaten, and plenty go off short enough, of course. But he is a classy jockey, and he will be interesting to know, given he's freer to ride for other trainers and connections and so on, and he is a very, very good jockey, and he rides this place particularly well as well, so that's something to note. Roger Varian is a trainer to note as well. Obviously plenty of his are short and well backed. You do need to be picky with them, but they're flying in the last 14 days, as you can see there. Is there anything else to highlight? James Ferguson's aren't going along too well. Hasn't had a good year with runners here so far, but has had winners here before. But that's a yard. 81% rivals beaten in the last 14 days. They're going well. So Ferguson runners might be worth keeping an eye on. Haggis, he's 2 from 4, 3 from 8. Again, a bit similar to Variant. Plenty of theirs are put in at short prices, plenty are well backed, and you need to be picky enough. But he's a wonderful trainer, of course, and they are starting to hit decent form as well. So that's that. I'm 12 minutes. Let's get a move on. 240, very competitive handicap. Now with these handicaps, so I should just use an example of pace. You can use pace maps. If we organise this by draw here, let me click that. It's a right-handed course. That means stalls, those are the lowest, are drawn against the rail, and these will be against the inside rail. Now, it does pay to be leading or prominent generally. You can see the stats here over this course and distance on these ground conditions. Plenty of these can race prominent. Valsad may get out. I should think some of these lower might get out as well. There might be a fair bit of pace on here, potentially. So that's not clear cut. Sometimes you can find a lone pace angle, which is useful. But generally, most of these races here today, when it's riding standard or slow, you need to be kind of leading or prominent. Having said that, no doubt there'll be a load of closers win, but it tends to be harder to come from the back, so that's something to keep in mind. And if you're not analysing pace in your punting, especially your serious punting, you should be. It's a vital element, and make sure you are analysing or getting a grip on who you think might be leading, who you think might be prominent, whether the race will set up for a horse that can make all and dictate, or whether there might be a pace burn up and it might set up for a closer. What do I want to highlight here? What other stats are there of anything that you can note that's useful? Ed Bethel sends one down from Yorkshire to Kempton. He's only done that 3 times previously. None of them have placed. He's a very decent trainer as well, and he's in form. So many informed trainers at the moment. 2 from 6, 4 places the last 14 days. 79% of rivals beaten. He's a yard to keep an eye on. I suspect he'll have another decent season, especially in the north. Got some very good stats here. 18% with handicappers and flat handicappers is a very good going indeed. So he might be worth noting. That horse might be worth a closer look. I'm not sure. Rafe Beckett does well with horses first time in the handicap. Trainer jockey Beckett Crouch do well at Kempton more generally. Yeah, he's another one, Beckett, where don't back them all, you'll lose a chunk of money. Again, you need to be picky, but he's had a very good few seasons and is very consistent. Again, 18-90% in handicaps is good. The Andrew Balding horse might be interesting. I say that because of these stats here. Let me just click on him the yard are going well. Plenty of runners, of course, been very consistent in the last month. 10 from 38, 18 places, 7 from 27, 11 places. You can see the stats there for yourself in front. He can ready them after a break if he wants. Generally, all these snippets here for the last 2 years. So 17, 18% with first starts in the handicap are decent, of course, plus 33 SP. And it's his first start in a handicap stats which are worth absorbing. Whether or not they'll be relevant for this horse, we will find out. But yeah, in the last 2 years, 17, 18%. In the last 5 years, he's just stayed consistent. You would have done well backing all of them. And for some of you, that might be a good thing. I should probably do a deeper dive at some point in system building software and just have a look and see if there are any handicap debut angles. There may well be, but that is certainly something to keep an eye on. And in this particular runner, he does pretty well when targeting Kempton. It's above his overall first time in the handicap stats, 20%, plus 18 SP. Performing above market expectation to some degree, although probably we want to dive in a bit deeper. But yeah, those stats are interesting enough. Obviously, Oshin rides plenty for the yard, and he's riding very well with confidence as well. So the yard are in form, does very well with handicap debutants. Some of these races might look okay down here. It's his first run of the track. They did pitch him into a Group 3, which I always think is interesting and might give some indication of what they might think now he's in a Class 2 handicap, which is quite the drop down. But, you know, you can take a closer look in this race if you wish. It's obviously very likely very competitive. Action. James Owen is another trainer I want to just highlight. Last 14 days, 4 from 18, 7 places. He's doing well with everything. He used to be a very good trainer of Arabian horses. He gave that up. He was a very good point-to-point trainer as well. Is there nothing this man can't do? His yard are in form. He's based in Newmarket at near 23% strike rate with all his runners in the last year is some going. He'll do well to keep that up. It could be he's had a lot of well handicapped horses. You need to keep restocking. You need to keep finding them. But evidently he's a very, very decent trainer. And yeah, he's done well. Last time out winners, that's a stat worth noting. He gets them to hold their form. 13 from 39, 24 places. So that might be something to keep an eye on. He's up a couple of classes. He's making handicap debut. Trainer jockey combo. James Owen, Aidan Keeley. Decent £3 claimer, but he used him plenty. 7 from 21, 8 places. Have we missed the boat there? Hopefully not, while he's still got his claim. But that might be an interesting trainer jockey combo tonight to note also. Right, that's 3 races down 17 minutes. They tail off a bit in a second. Another very competitive handicap. Is there anything on the pace maps here? Again, not so clear cut. Actually, leading hasn't been a good thing, as you can see from those stats. Tends to go to something a bit further back, and there's a chance that these 4 take each other on, potentially. We will see. And yeah, maybe it will set up for something that's ridden a bit more patiently. Obviously, these out wide either have to drop in or force themselves forward and try to get across, using plenty of energy to do so. Are there any stats here? Jockey stats. Yeah, David Probert, very underrated jockey. He's worth keeping an eye on more generally. But he's riding well at the moment. But, you know, yeah, again, you lose a stat backing all of his rides and need to be careful. There's some more balding stats there in terms of, yeah, we know the trainer's in form. Ian Jardine, whether or not relevant to this horse, has had 531 days off. But another angle, an interesting one. Obviously, some trainers can improve horses from other yards or sweeten them up or do something. Ian Jardine, 4 from 22, 6 places. With new recruits on the first start for him in the last year, and that's certainly stepped up a bit. So maybe he's changed a few things, or changed the sort of horses he's buying from other yards, or owners are moving them to him. Who knows? But that's interesting enough. He's only had 1 runner here, obviously all the way down from Scotland. Whether or not that's interesting by itself, I don't know. Another Hugo Palmer horse here. Nothing on that front as such. What else? Ollie Murphy's worth noting. He's in very good form. 34% in the last 30 days. Worth noting for the jumps, of course, where he's more predominant. And he's not from 36 at Kempton in both codes. but he started to have a few flat runners last year, 3 from 26 places, 4 from 25.7. That might be worth an interest. It'll be interesting if he has any more this summer, especially in staying races. As you'd expect, as a jumps trainer, predominantly can train them to stay. So that might be something interesting more generally. Is there anything else I want to or can flag that might be useful in this particular race? Ian Williams does well with last time out winners. There's some more of those James Owen stats again there, which might be interesting given his form and everything else. So this one comes fit from hurdling and in form hurdling. And yeah, who knows? That might be an interesting one to take a deep dive in because of the yard form, the trainer jockey combo form. He's 4 from 13 6 places in staying races on the flat, kind of 1 mile 6 and further. That might be worth noting as well. So yes, that's interesting. I've touched on the pace there, and then that's kind of it really, in the sense we get some smaller fields, conditions races. I've touched on the Hughes form. Charlie Appleby does well with last time out winners. Never to be underestimated. 36% win strike rate is pretty good. Obviously he has lots of ammo to go to war with. James Tate does very well at this course. That's worth noting. 11 from 39, 16 place in the last year, plus 16.6. Trainer jockey combos, started to use Neil Callan plenty since he's come back. That might be worth noting as well. So yeah, something of use there. And he's another yard in form, 4 from 8, 4 places. Is there anything else? There's Balding again. The Millman team, yeah, don't do very well first career starts. They tend to come on for the run. So yeah, that might be interesting. It's obviously a small field. I haven't looked at the pace. Looks like Neil Callan, if they all adopt similar tactics, might be able to get a freebie, dictate and do his own thing. We will see if that is beneficial to him through this race or not, but that might be worth noting down. Another condition stakes, Richard Hannon. I'll try and wrap up the next couple of minutes. His are going okay. That percentage rivals beaten is above the yearly average. Plenty of place horses, 57%. That's above the yearly average. Are they about to burst? Oh, they've had a few winners, but are they about to burst into even more life? Rafe Beckett I've touched on. Carl Burke, obviously very, very good trainer. Had a few winners, haven't started to bang them in as he can do. Tom Clover going okay, but nothing there of particular note to highlight. What else? So that's that. I could look at the pace as well. Possibly prominent contested. Will one of these be ultra aggressive and try and lead? Has been harder to come from the back, but these are conditions races. Obviously can be a bit more about class and ability, small field, so tactics possibly not as important, but still giving any horse a freebie on the front, whatever the conditions, is never a good thing if you're further back, or certainly an advantage for that horse. Right, final race in my quick video, which is going to end up being 25 minutes long, but there was quite a lot to touch on, and I hope you found it useful. Balding, nothing to note there. Just having a look down at some of these report angles. There's some hot form for this particular horse. Sorry, let me click the right tab. That might be worth noting and of interest. Actually, plenty of his races have worked out well. If I just click on that here, it's always good to get a grip on form and how the races might be working out. Obviously, you can look at who they beat, but Ferris here off 85, Nebworth then won again. Bosch has since won as well. So the two who chased him home, and Albaraz on his next start has won as well. So this race, Wolverhampton, 9th of March, the 5 o'clock could be, well, it's 3 from 8, 4 places already. Could be a hot race. And if you like tracking races, that's another way in. Maybe this one is one to keep an eye on. This Commander Straighter for David Lockdown, he hasn't run again yet. Sent off a big price here, but the form, he's got winners in front of him, winners behind him. That could be interesting, and so on. So, yeah, that kind of thing is useful to do and to approach, and that's another way you can approach this great game as well. But that could be interesting. David Probert's on there. He does well for the yard, 4 from 17, 5 places, +8. So yeah, Jack Shannon, when he Books David Probert might be interesting weigh in possibly for this horse. Richard Hughes again. We've got all those trainer stats that I've previously touched on. This is a last time out winner. He does okay with those, though you have to pick them. You can't just back them blind. He was clear with Woven 13 days ago. Front two were clear of the field. Obviously, Ferris beat him last time. But yeah, interesting. It's one of those competitive races. Will it pay to be race fit? Will something improve? Obviously, those having their first starts of the season when they're a bit older, you can obviously see if they've got a profile for winning when fresh. Is there anything finally on the pace maps here? Let me just sort it by draw, as it will be on the in the race. Again, prominent and leading. It's not impossible. It's just this is just because of the win percentage and so on. Actually, leading over 6 furlongs at Kempton, this kind of field size, this kind of going, 40 from 208, 90 places. If you'd have put £1 on all of them, if you could find them, plus 97. So 6 furlong at Kempton in handicaps. Can you find horses that will lead? The Harrington ones down here, we'll see. Nebworth can race handy. Obviously, some of these are wider drawn, and they've got a decision to make when they get out. But there's no out and out front runners there as such. But that's worth keeping in mind. You can look at that race in a bit more depth, but certainly over that course and distance. So I'm going to wrap up there. I've probably missed something. There's probably some other stat that maybe I could have highlighted as I say that. This one is from that, so Rebel Pass, sorry, he's from that hot form race, but he was 10th, beaten 8 lengths. But maybe at some point he's going to jump forward as well. And yeah, what's here on the Brian Ellison stats? He's also from that hot race, but didn't do anything bad on turf, but he was quite well stuffed. So, yeah, we'll see. But yes, with that said, I'll put my face back there. Hopefully you can see me again. Thanks for watching. Do watch it back. Pause the bits that might be interesting. Hopefully you've got a fair few notes which might be interesting for this meeting. Some ways in that might be, or certainly be useful for the next few weeks. Certainly in some of those trainer form information I've touched on, the stats, and some trainer jockey combos I've touched on, some hot form and bits and pieces like that, some trainers that do very well at Kempton, and so on and so forth. So I've fitted a lot in there. Another quick video from me as I tick around the 27 minutes, but it's packed plenty in. But I hope you've enjoyed watching that. I hope you found it useful. There's a few, it's always good to think about ways in. And hopefully that might help you enjoy this particular race meeting. Obviously, if you go to any serious betting, do dive into some of those horses and races in a bit more depth than I have there, but I've given you some kind of starting point ammunition. Of course, nothing wrong with some fun small stakes multiples, if that's how you like to play a Saturday. Of course, there's probably an ITV7 to play and so on, but and a place pot, you name it. But yeah, with that said, I'll stop droning on. Enjoy your weekend. Good luck with any bets more generally, but specifically at Kempton, of course. And until the next time, this is Josh saying, well done for getting this far. And until the next time, bye for now.